Good evening, and welcome to Smash Fiction, the podcast where we pit two or more characters against each other in a battle of being spooky, kooky, altogether ooky, or the kill and be killed of grimdark television, and see who would win. This week, Michonne versus the White Walkers. What? It's not enough that there are regular zombies? There are ice zombies now? What's next? Water zombies? Wind zombies? Heart zombies? Captain Planet zombies? No, focus, says Christian to himself. It's true though. There are ice zombies now. Or White Walkers, as they probably call themselves, because they think they're so cool. Christian is one of the remaining humans still alive and is sick of this zombie nonsense. Seriously, where are you when we need you, Captain Planet? But he's heard tell of something better than Captain Planet for fighting these White Walkers. Valyrian steel. Michonne is another of the only remaining humans, and she is even more sick of this zombie nonsense. She is so sick of it that she's going to cut its head off and bury it in a shallow grave. Not figuratively either. The settlement near what used to be DC is getting sticky and gross. People keep saying winter is coming, but it's not here yet, and there's only so much post-apocalyptic stank someone can live with. Further north seems cool, remote, inviting, and most importantly, full of zombie-killing metal deposits. Christian's intel points to a cluster of icy hills about a day's travel away. The hills are rich with Valyrian steel that can be brought back to the settlement and turned into weapons against White Walkers. Michonne packs her katana. Road trip. In the coolness of the north, the White Walkers are hanging out and keeping watch on the Valyrian steel. They just want a place to hang out and take over the entire world from. Is that so much to ask? Apparently it is. The ice squirrels and ice mooses have reported rumor that the humans know about the Valyrian steel. And also, how rad things are up north. Ugh. Humans, am I right? Always trying to survive. The White Walkers are keeping an eye on the Valyrian steel deposits, and they'll take out anyone they find getting near them. So, Michonne has to get past the ice zombies and White Walkers, get the steel, and get back to the settlement to prepare some sick-ass weapons. Who will be King of the North when this match is over? I have no idea. I always keep my eyes closed and ears plugged during the scary parts. So I, Megan Bob, will be your impartial judge this week. Representing Team Michonne are Miles Schneiderman.
Oh, my sweet summer child. What do you know about bullshit?
And from the Unspoiled podcast, Jamie Smith.
My shit never stopped being together.
Ooh, that's...
Ooh.
I cannot even identify with that, but I'm proud. Representing Team White Walkers are Liz Logan.
I wanted to make a joke about underwear, but I couldn't think of anything, so tidy whities. Haha.
Bah! Underwear. And also from the Unspoiled podcast, Money.
There are no zombies like me. There is only me.
Wow.
That should be my line. My name's Jamie.
That's true. That's a very good point.
In order to determine who went first this week, I challenged both teams to make scary Halloween things into adorable things. Team White Walkers gathered a band of skeletons and taught them to play xylophone on their ribs and do a whole dance routine. And let me tell you, you haven't lived until you've seen a skeleton do a pirouette. Team Michonne rounded up a bunch of werewolves and dressed them as cowboys with little boots on their paws, bandanas, and cowboy hats that were just a little too small. And then they howled along to Happy Trails, but they changed the lyrics to Happy Tales. It was precious as heck. Unfortunately, after the performances were over, the ghost of Walt Disney stormed the stage, screaming about the skeleton dance, and took Team White Walkers down in an avalanche of lawsuits. So, while they're crawling out from under the paperwork, Team Michonne will be going first. Listeners, for this match, we are only using the TV series versions of these characters, although the White Walkers will not have access to a dragon.
That's very
Damn!
true.
Team Michonne, prepare to render the other team Michonned!
Michonne, no last name needed, is not only one of the fiercest fighters in the zombie apocalypse, she's what often holds the group she's with together. Her quick thinking has saved them more times than she can count, not that she's counting. She's a survivor, doing what it takes to make it. When she was alone, she made her boyfriend and his friend into jawless zombie pets, which aided in her being able to move amongst the walkers undetected. She's smart. There are several strong members of their group, but few have had success being on their own. Most of them have been at least with one other person, if not a whole group for the entirety of the apocalypse. That's why she's the one her group would want to go on a solo recon mission for a mysterious type of steel that can kill the walkers more efficiently than the katana she already uses. And what about that? The woman is more effective with a sword than most people are with automatic weapons. She can single-handedly slice through a horde of zombies like they're made of butter, where other people struggle with aiming their guns accurately. And I'm not talking about one zombie at a time. Michonne often takes out 2 or 3 in one move. Her keen observation skills and tactical brain allow her to formulate successful plans in the moment, and she's yet to come all that close to the teeth of a zombie. She doesn't let herself get complacent or lazy, whether it's at Woodbury where she opens a cage of zombies just to slice them up, or going outside the Alexandria walls to practice using a sniper rifle. Michonne keeps herself in fighting shape. She's resourceful, and not only with weapons. In this sorrowful life, Merle abducts her to curry favor with the governor again. Her hands are bound, and she is tied to a post at a motel while he tries to hotwire a car. When he sets off the car alarm like a dumbass and draws walkers to them, she manages to kill one just using the rope she's tied with, and another by kicking it off balance and crushing its head with one stomp. She's a fucking badass. She later manages to get through to Merle, when she tells him that he could have been a part of the group, but she thinks he likes being an outsider. She points out that it was the governor who turned him into a killer, but it doesn't have to stay that way. In response, he cuts her ties and lets her loose, sword and all. In No Sanctuary, she makes a double-sided sword using wood from the inside of the container they're being held in for use in fighting her way out. In New Best Friends, after Rick is thrown in a garbage pit by Jadis and has to fight an armored walker, it's Michonne who tells him to use the trash around him. Despite probably having a concussion in the first day of the rest of your life, she manages to overpower Fallon and kill her by stabbing her with a piece of a broken flower pot and then throwing her over a balcony. She doesn't run blindly into a fight, and most times the person who keeps her group, Rick, from doing so either. She understands the necessity of a plan. She struggled against the restraints put on her group by the saviors, but still found a way to fight back. She makes hard decisions for the betterment of the group. In Try, after helping Sasha deal with her grief by going after walkers alone, she returns to Alexandria and knocks Rick out when he's gotten out of control. When he suggests in Heads Up that they abandon the people in Alexandria after the wolves attack, she refuses. She uses the pain of losing her friends to fuel her, and would do anything to keep her group safe. You won't find her formulating any half-assed missions to capture a walker and bring it back for proof of its existence. She's not putting others at risk for something so stupid. She'd methodically search them out, find the special weapons, observe them, and then work out how to take them down. So throw some white walkers against her in the frozen north. She'll just fuck them up. Even the walkers that have weapons can't stop her. She'll just slice off their arms and then their heads and light them on fire. Put a Valyrian steel sword in her hands and match her up against the Night King, and she'd give Jon Snow a run for his money. All she needs to know is that that sword can destroy them, and she'd toss that trusty katana aside and go to work. Even if Michonne found a sword as small as Arya's, if it's rumored to be able to kill a White Walker, she'd find a way to make that a reality. Like she says to Rick in Rock of the Road, we're the ones who live.
Michonne has two primary obstacles to overcome during this match. Whites and White Walkers. Whites are, of course, basically zombies, in that they are reanimated dead things that shamble around and occasionally go,
Yay, noises.
There is one very important difference, though. The Whites have been reanimated not by a disease, but by magic, specifically the magic of the White Walkers, which turns corpses into somewhat more mobile and murderous corpses. What this means is that for the first time in her life, Michonne is up against zombies who aren't contagious. If a white scratches, claws, or bites you, it will probably hurt, but it most certainly will not turn you into a white yourself. That can't happen until you actually die. Michonne is one of the 3 or 4 deadliest zombie killers in The Walking Dead, and she has spent her entire zombie-killing career knowing that if one of her enemies draws even the tiniest amount of blood, she's dead. Don't just look at her massive kill count, look at the fact that she killed literally hundreds of zombies, primarily in melee combat, without being touched once. If Michonne is able to mow through hordes of the undead with nothing but a sword and a lack of fucks, and come out human on the other side, what chance do the regular whites have? Then there are the White Walkers, which are admittedly more of a problem, but only slightly. It's true that Michonne won't be able to kill them until she gets her hands on some dragonglass or some Valyrian steel, but the moment she does get her hands on either of those things, it's over. The White Walkers are pathetically weak against dragonglass. Samwell Tarly, notable for being the most cowardly member of the Night's Watch, not to mention the least adept at fighting, stabs a White Walker once with a dragonglass dagger in Season 3, and all it can do is scream in mortal agony for a few seconds before shattering into pieces. And it's not like Sam stabbed this White Walker in the head, or in the neck, or in the chest, or in the stomach. He stabbed it in, like, the shoulder blade. He could have stabbed it in the big toe, it wouldn't matter. One stab, death. And Valyrian steel is somehow even more effective. In that case, the White Walker doesn't even get to do the screaming in mortal agony thing. It just instantly dissolves in a shower of ice crystals. What I'm trying to tell you is that Michonne, who has owned her slicey skills to near perfection against a foe that can one-shot her, is now standing on the other side of that situation. Now, she's the one who can dispose of her opponent with a touch. The moment she finds either that stone or that metal, this fight is exactly as finished as the Winds of Winter is not.
Nah.
Burn.
But surely, you say, it's going to be pretty damn difficult to survive long enough to get those weapons, right? Considering that without them, the White Walkers can't be killed? Well, beyond the simple fact that Michonne is a survivalist who both moves and thinks faster than the White Walkers, the Walkers themselves are going to ensure Michonne's victory here. Unlike the Whites, the Walkers are a sentient species that apparently possess some degree of personality, and what we see of that personality is primarily composed of arrogance and stupidity. The very first thing they do in Game of Thrones is let a member of the Night's Watch live for no reason, so he can go tell everyone he saw them. They do the same thing with Sam Tarly in Season 2. Just stop next to him, look at him, and keep going. In battle, they move slowly, enjoying the desperation of their victims, secure in the knowledge that they can't be harmed. Their fight scenes are barely fight scenes because one lazy-ass parry is enough to shatter regular weapons. If you're not standing directly in their path and or holding a baby, they don't give a shit about you. And it is their undoing every single time. That walker that Sam ices in Second Sons didn't need to die. It could have killed Sam easily. Instead, it turned its back on him and got murdered. The one John kills in Hardhome didn't have to die. It could have killed John on multiple occasions. Instead, it let him crawl his way to a Valyrian steel sword and got murdered. If the one in the door had bothered to use the tiniest amount of tactical brainpower, it wouldn't have just been standing there waiting for Mira to throw a spear at it, but it was just standing there, and it got murdered. It's not until Beyond the Wall, the second to last episode of the most recent season of Game of Thrones, that we see a White Walker actually fight, and guess what? It gets murdered! They are overconfident in their abilities, they don't take their enemies seriously, and when they encounter humans running around on their own, like Michonne will be here, they will almost always leave those humans alone until and unless they present a threat. By the time the Walkers realize that Michonne presents a threat, it'll be too late. Finally, some numbers to back up all these facts. At least one White Walker has appeared in 12 episodes of Game of Thrones, and at least one White Walker has died in 4 of them. At least one member of House Stark has appeared in all 67 episodes of Game of Thrones, and at least one member of House Stark has died in 3 of them. When you have a worse survival rate than the fucking Starks of Winterfell, you don't get to win anything, and certainly not this match.
Brutal words from Team Michonne, thank you. Team White Walkers, ice. Prepare to ice the competition, ice.
Ice, 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 ice.
Oh
ice,
god,
ice.
I've been looking forward to this
Ice,
so much.
ice!
What will the ice judge
Let me get
do?
my tidy whities on. Ah! Okay, they're so roomy.
I don't understand what we're saying.
The White Walkers are by far the most formidable opponent ever faced by Michonne and humankind. They lack the disadvantages of other undead foes. Fire is extinguished in cold pretty easily, dragonglass is quite brittle, and Valyrian steel is in short supply. Michonne, while skilled in taking care of rotting meat bags, is uniquely unsuited to take on badass ice bags of this caliber. The White Walkers will know the second Michonne steps into their territory, and the only reason she will make any progress at all is because it serves the White Walkers' goal, aka adding another undead soldier to their ranks. First, let's consider the White Walkers' incredible long-term thinking. For thousands of years, they have bided their time, built up their ranks through incest baby attrition, and even though their numbers...
Oh my god! That's the best recruitment scheme!
Even though their numbers have swollen more than Cersei's ego, rather than invade right away, they chose the smarter option, guerrilla tactics. Pick off a few free folk here and there, make sure there are surviving witnesses to go running back to their villages. It's a long process, but in the end, they had over 100,000 wildlings bottlenecked at Hardhome, ripe for the harvest. Basically, White Walkers are anything but the stupid Walking Dead zombies. They are not mindless. They have an actual goal they're trying to accomplish, which is conquer Westeros. They have actual battle tactics and set traps like they did at Hardhome. They always have tricks up their sleeve. Again, even though the Night's Watch was created specifically to defend against the White Walker threat, you're telling me that only just recently they knew that dragonglass could harm them? Jon Snow didn't know that the Night's King won the White Walker Olympics in Javelin? Well, sorry, but you just lost a fucking dragon! There's no way Michonne will be able to discover this knowledge on her own anytime soon. Literally, if someone was in front of her shouting, "I know how to kill these bastards!" she would be so distrustful and antisocial, she'd start white walking the other way. Why do you think...
God.
Why do you think the Night's Watch knows so little about these ice bags? Because these ice bags stay hidden until they need to be seen. Michonne isn't going to even catch a glimpse of them until it is way too late for her. And we can't forget the foot soldiers the others have on their side. Michonne may be excellent at taking care of rotting, shambling, stupid corpses made of plasticine whose heads explode like ripe watermelons, but that's not what these whites are. They maintain enough sentience to play dead for 100 years outside a tree, can use weapons, can ride zombie horses, make excellent babysitter preschool teachers of future kings, can fall off a cliff and survive to utterly destroy a town. Dan knows this list can go on and on. Remember in Season 7, Episode 6, how the huge White Walker army just stood there, watching Jon Snow's ragtag band of IKEA rug-wearing crows struggle to stay alive. They knew that the crows couldn't cross the lake, so instead they waited until it froze solid and then began to give Jon Snow a particularly bad hair day. Snow's crew had to be saved by 3 dragons, one of which fell to the White Walkers. In contrast, the Walking Dead zombies Michonne has been against have the attention span of a goldfish. They have no determination when it comes to catching difficult quarry. Again, in Season 6, Episode 5, even though Bran and company have holed themselves up in a fairly large, hidden, labyrinthine-style cave, complete with hiding spaces and doors, mind you, the White Walkers do not simply walk away to find easier prey. No, they pound that motherfucking door down! You can't hide from them! Additionally, it's not just the dead humans that Michonne will have to worry about either. Raccoons, squirrels, moose, meese, and birds.
Yay! Yay!
They're all part of the Night King's horrifying menagerie, working as effective spies that survey the realm from the air, ground, and wherever else they can get their creepiness into. We should also take a moment to remember just how, well, recon missions against the White Walkers have turned out. Remember the assassination attempt on the Lord Commander, which causes him to lead 300 Rangers north, most of which are added to the Army of the Dead? Whoops! Recon missions against the White Walkers are doomed to failure, and they always serve the White Walkers' goals, not the dumbass meatbags who sent them. This only ends one way. You really think that Michonne, an outsider, would be able to stay hidden from White Walker Big Brother, when basically every Night's Watch patrol conducted by Rangers who have studied their own landscape incredibly closely has failed? With horses, weapons, and armor, Michonne is up against an undead contingent of Canadian Mounties. When Michonne sees this, it's about time to pack up her bag and flee to Virginia!
Oh, you said a boot! Oh.
In the post-apocalyptic American South, there's no one you want on your side more than Michonne, except for Carol. Don't fuck with her. Before the dead rose, she was a powerful, competent, professional black woman, in a very racist state. After, she's a zombie-killing machine, stoic and graceful, magnificent, resourceful, smart, and deadly. Also, she's the exact wrong choice for a mission like this. Her only qualification to make the journey above anyone else in the group is her amateur samurai-ing. I'll give it to her. A black woman with a katana and dreads is amazing, and I would watch a million movies starring her. But she fails at the basics, like motherfucking sword maintenance. In the 4 years she's been on the show, we have never seen her once oil or sharpen her blade. That doesn't matter much, considering her primary foes are shambling corpses that have been wandering around in the hot Georgia sun for goddamn years. They have consistency of congealed tapioca pudding. The whites, on the other hand, have been in the frigid north this entire time, frozen hard. Pause your podcast player right now. Go get a butcher knife and slam it down on a frozen T-bone steak. I'll wait. Also, this is no fucking Hattori Hanzo blade. It likely came from the wall of some fuckboy who bought it at the mall and thinks a good first date is to watch Rick and Morty. She's not used to zombies that fight back. Forget swords she'll have to cross. She's gotta go up against the aforementioned Mounties armed with actual guns. Guns she can't use against them because they're not Valyrian steel bullets. Also, she can't hit shit. More on that later. Second, we have to take into account what she's qualified to fight and what she isn't. Shambling, mindless corpses with the munchies are dumb. Like, really dumb. You can goad them into falling off a cliff and smashing into the rocks with nothing more than a rigged smoke detector. That is not how whites work. They're fast. They can haul ass even with no meat left on their bones. So she can't just shamble her way away. They are devious. They'll play dead until the humans turn their backs and then fuck you the fuck up. Third, their weak points are incredibly fickle. Fire burns out and is difficult to aim, especially in a wet, snowy environment. Obsidian is brittle, easy to break, good for maybe 1 or 2 good stabs, and there isn't any of it to be found east of the Rockies, I checked. Michonne also just doesn't need to get from point A to point B. She needs to survive while doing it. There's been no one plowing the roads for years at this point, so her cars are useless, and everything is buried under plenty of snow. And something tells me she doesn't know how to ski cross-country or otherwise. She's a terrible hunter. We've seen her spend all day target practicing and hitting not a goddamn thing. All her food is going to need to be scavenged. Let's pretend for a second that she has the time and the energy to spend digging through the crusted snow away from the entrance to a Tim Hortons. Do you really think the White Walkers aren't staking out potential sources of food? Hell, trapping them in there and watching them slowly starve to death is probably their only source of recreation. They do not have Netflix. Finally, neither the White Walkers nor the Whites are stupid. You can't just hide from them and wait till they get distracted by something. Michonne will need to trek through hundreds of miles, covering her tracks in the snow, avoiding the gaze of every chipmunk, bunny, moose, and meese, because any single one of them can track her and report back to the Horde. Plus, her signature camouflage, you know, the one that allowed her to survive alone in Georgia for years? It's useless. She can't keep zombies on a chain to hide her musk, because, as we learn in Season 1, Episode 7, whites don't smell. She can't hide her body heat by smearing herself with mud. 1, it's all frozen. 2, this isn't fucking Predator. In summary, Michonne is up against an enemy she is woefully unprepared for. She can't sneak past them. She's not experienced in fighting an undead enemy that's any more intelligent than a bowl of grits. There are 2 ways this would play out. Either she'll die and get trapped up north, and her mansplaining fascist boyfriend will send a cadre of his most competent fighters to rescue her and get killed themselves, or her frozen corpse is going to be found outside the walls of Alexandria, and during the funeral, she's going to get up and slaughter them all while they shoot her in the head uselessly. I think Carol will be fine, though.
Chilling words from Team White Walkers there. I know. Oh, icy fingers on my spine. Okay. Now we brace ourselves for the onslaught of nonsense and shouting that is the creamy nougat at the center of our show. Rebuttals. Get your protein bars ready, Team Michonne. It's on.
So the first thing I'll say is you made a lot of bones about the whites and the white walkers.
Sorry.
That was actually accidental. I'm proud of myself. You were talking a lot about how smart the whites and the white walkers were. They were able to catch the recon teams, like, you know, when G.R. Mormont led his crew into the woods, and talking about how they were able to determine that they had John's crew trapped on the frozen lake. So a couple things about that. First of all, the whites in that scenario in the Beyond the Wall episode clearly weren't aware of the fact that water freezes, because it took the Hound throwing a rock like a dumbass to make them realize that the lake had frozen. And when they did realize that, they came one at a time like the worst movie fucking hordes ever. Beyond that, like, yes, they managed to track down an army. Congratulations, that's impressive. They're not some, like, extremely intelligent defensive force that instantly sniffs out your reconnaissance. They just managed to stumble upon really large groups of people.
Okay, you can't say that that's luck that they stumble upon. And going back to the frozen lake thing, they didn't even need to cross the lake, okay? So what? The hound throws the rock. They knew that if they stayed in that circle, which they are able to for hundreds of years, as we brought up, they're gonna get their way. There is nowhere Jon Snow and crew can go. The White Walkers are effectively starving them via attrition.
But why
That
not?
is a completely valid strategy.
But why-
I think
Just
what you're
kill them.
forgetting, Miles, is they don't need to be fucking omniscient to understand human nature to a point. That anyone sent after the recon mission is going to be packing more men and more firepower, which now falls into the hands of the zombies. Case in point, the entire northern ranging. Their guerrilla tactics have scared the free folk enough for them to band together into a giant horde of hungry people who all get killed and added to the army. They don't have to be particularly smart to realize that all you gotta do is let one of them tell the story and more people will come.
I think you're giving them way too much credit for tactics.
Yeah, way too much credit.
And, like, this was all some kind of grand scheme instead of they made
right.
people afraid.
How smart are they? They sat up there for fucking years. Okay, so they did. They got Jeor Mormont's ranging group for the most part. They
And
got
the
them.
entire free folk army.
Not the entire
Well, no,
Free Folk
they-
army,
they-
because a lot
they
of them got
survived
through the
enough
wall.
to fight with Castle Black in season 4.
Only a couple thousand. How many were at Hardhome?
My point was, they've had all this time, and they sat stationary until Jon Snow with 7 fucking people shows up. They just sat there for months. It has been so long since Jon left the wall. I don't know what the Night's Watch has been doing since Jon decided to take back Winterfell, but the White Walkers have been doing fucking nothing. They've been sitting there.
They live
But why-
for
but why
thousands
is
of
that an
years.
issue?
They have a
Yeah.
very different time horizon than human beings do, who live for what, 60 years?
Well, that's fine. We don't have to stop their conquest. We just have to sneak in and get something. Like, they live for thousands of years, so they've clearly become complacent.
How many caches of weapons against the White Walkers have successfully been migrated south of the wall?
Well, okay, look, I'm actually glad you brought that up, because you talked a lot about how Michonne won't be able to resort to her signature strategies, quote unquote, of walking among the zombies and hiding amongst them. She doesn't do that because, like, she really digs it and she unlocks an achievement for doing it. She does that because she observes, thinks tactically, and figures out what will work. So just because that strategy is not going to work here does not mean that Michonne is not going to come up with another one that will work against these zombies. And, you know, that thinking also applies to finding a cache of dragonglass or Valyrian steel. She does know there's some up here and she will be able to find it.
Okay,
How
this is
exactly is
total
she...
speculation. Like, you
Most
can't
of the
say
time
she's
they're-
gonna figure it out. You have to provide an example, because we have examples of them being able to catch people who are scouting. We have the animals. We are the ones constantly surprising people, ambushing people. You guys are just saying, she'll figure it out. What does that mean?
Let's
Hold
not
on,
forget-
hold on. Where are you getting this idea that the animals report back to the White Walkers, by the way?
Every example of an animal being turned into a White
Yeah,
Walker-esque
but they don't
animal?
talk.
They don't talk. They don't have like a mind meld with the Night's King.
But they still serve them.
Yeah.
How?
But not by communicating.
As a horse, by being something they can ride. I'm not seeing little ice squirrels coming out and attacking the Night's Watch when they're
You're
out
right,
there.
and neither will Michonne.
No, she's not going to rely on little magical animals either. She's not Snow White.
Okay. Good job, everybody. It was beautiful. A lot of things were said. Your turn, Team White Walkers. Show them that the night is dark and full of yelling.
So Miles made a lot of hay out of the fact that the White Walkers have quite a few of them dead. Well, who cares? The Night's King has proven over and over again he's willing to sacrifice resources in order to win in the long-term game. The White Walkers who are sent out after Jon Snow and Sam are expendable. They're scouts. He doesn't care. He's not fazed at all when he loses one of them. You know why? Because he's got hundreds more hiding up in the hills who can stand there menacingly from a safe distance.
That's fine. I mean, the Night's King thinking they're expendable doesn't really matter. We're not necessarily up against the Night's King because we're not necessarily at war here. My point about the White Walkers being killed is that they can be killed by a fat coward who stabs one of them in the shoulder. Certainly, Sam and Mira are no Michonne. I would argue that John is no Michonne, given the way he's been portrayed on the show. And so my point is that the White Walkers can and have been killed by people with significantly inferior skills.
Who have the weapons they need. She has neither.
Well, she will find them.
Yeah, but
Where?
she'll get caught before that happens. She's
I don't
ranging
think so.
in an environment she's never been used to.
She's adaptable, though. She learns. She knows how to observe what's going on around her. She knows how to follow without being detected.
Who would she follow there? The sentries there can stay there for thousands of years. We've seen that outside the tree where Bran was chilling all during season
Well, look,
5.
we've established that there are Canadian Mounties running around this area. So Michonne is...
Yeah, dead ones.
That's their police station, the Valyrian Steel Cache.
I mean, well, look, if there are Canadians in this area, which was a huge part of your argument, was the presence of Canadians and Canadianism, then I would argue that Michonne because we see her like numerous times. The very first time we see her is when she sneaks up on some zombies and murders them when they're about to kill Andrea. Like, she has immense skills when it comes to stealth, and again, observation. So if she overhears some people talking about Valyrian steel or dragonglass, if she, happens to see some whites or some White Walkers moving it, or dealing with it in any way, or just somebody
That's never
hiding
gonna
it.
happen.
Okay.
Why would they move it?
They would
They
never
wouldn't.
move it.
They would just guard it. They would have an obvious place where they're guarding.
What
Okay.
weapon is she going to use to take them out? You have not answered that question.
Well, if it's just the whites, if it's just the aimless sacks of ice meat or whatever, then a sword. Because we've seen everybody with a weapon that's not a Valyrian steel sword still able to hack and slash on regular whites.
Yeah, she's
But,
going to be
okay.
able to see that fire burns.
So if Michonne is so adaptable because she observes and stuff, tell me who's going to be fighting a White Walker for her to observe. She's going to see these things that look different from the zombies she's used to, carrying weapons, carrying armor, riding horses. You're going to tell me that she's just going to run up, white up one to them, and start swinging her sword at them? That does not sound like Michonne at all. I think if she gets into hand-to-hand, she's going to be scared. She's going to run away. They're going to have her eyes on her afterwards.
When has she
no
ever
way for
run
her to
away?
observe.
She doesn't run away.
Yeah, but you're saying how careful she's gonna be. That wouldn't be careful. That wouldn't be her style.
She walked around in a horde of zombies by herself, just covered in their goo.
Right,
They didn't
because she was
notice her.
camouflaged. She doesn't have that now.
Completely
Yeah,
fearless,
she can't
though.
do that.
When she decided, I don't want to be one of them, I want to live, she took them all out by herself.
Because they have the consistency of pudding.
And
It's
she's
frozen
already
meat.
observed them. She's never gonna observe how these people fight, how these White Walkers fight.
They don't fight, they run at people like other zombies and try to
With
kill them.
weapons, and they can't be killed with shots to the head. You have to cut them apart.
She has a sword.
It's all dependent on if she can find it, which I don't think she can.
Beyond the fact that I'm assuming at this point there's a Canadian Night's Watch. I just basically had assumed that before this match even began in the real
There
world.
is
that
no
there's a
wall
Canadian
in
Night's
Canada.
Watch.
There is no wall on the border of Canada, only in Mexico. That is not good for thinking.
Well, look.
I'm still gonna believe, I'm gonna stipulate for this match, there is in fact Canadian
There
Night's
is a
Watch,
Canadian
just
Night's
for the
Watch.
joy of thinking that there might be.
If she's in
Well,
an
then she
area...
can get the info.
Yeah, if she's
Maple
if
Watch?
she's an area where
Yes.
there are whites and White Walkers running around killing humans, which it seems like there are, then she's going to be able to observe how they move and what their weaknesses are. If they are just hanging out and there's nobody fighting them and they're not moving forward to conquer territory and they are literally just chilling up in the north, then there is no reason for them to suspect her for a second and she's going to walk in and take the shit.
All right.
What?
That
doesn't make any sense.
Okay, but that was the end of rebuttals. I think we all need Band-Aids and some orange slices after that. But they'll have to wait until after the lightning round. Mail call! Mail call! None of y'all expecting any packages? No mail? Says a blonde, bearded man in a tattered postal worker uniform. His donkey pulls at a tuft of dead grass. Who is this dude that wandered into the middle of a kill-off? One of the White Walkers gestures to Michonne as if to say, "Do you know this guy?" Michonne shakes her head. The ragged man says, "Well, this is where I'm supposed to deliver these messages, and you're who's here, so you're gonna take them." "Who the hell are you?" Michonne asks. The man turns his donkey and starts to leave. "Nobody. I'm just The postman.
The fuck?
Shut up. Liz,
Am I supposed to?
Is it Kevin Costner?
It is, but don't worry. It's all going to make sense here in a second. Also, Liz, of all people, you shut the fuck up. I remember that fucking Space Judge Insane Problem one. You be quiet.
Oh, that was so good. Okay.
That was. Left with a stack of letters at their feet, the White Walkers shrug and open some, as does Michonne. They're letters upon letters from podcast fans. One writes how much they miss Tighten Up the Defense now that the apocalypse is here. Someone writes thanking Lucas Brown for keeping the Math of You going. Australia was super ready for the apocalypse, as it turns out. Another asks if Unspoiled is going to keep recording episodes even though there's no TV anymore. Abigail and John write to ask about Smash Fiction. Is it still going? How are we doing research without the internet? Earwolf, Maximum Fun, Night Vale Presents, Radio Lab, all silent. Who is going to help these poor lost podcast fans who've had to resort to sending mail using a Kevin Costner reference from 1997? Michonne and the White Walkers, that's who. So, advocates, after you get the grid up and running again, which is a foregone conclusion, you definitely will, which podcast are you going to take over and run? How will the show be different after you take over making it? As newbie podcasters, what sort of personality do you plan to bring to the airwaves? And what will your signature phrase or shtick be? Team White Walkers, take it away.
We're going to be invading the New York offices of NPR and rebooting This American Unlife, where we tell heartwarming stories geared at the upper crust white people and totally ignore the actual strife in the world in favor of things like the Javelin Olympics and how the competition gets to the White Walkers and the heartwarming stories of undead dogs finding their masters and the summer camp activities.
Like learning to swim, making chains as a giant group, and how rewarding it is because at the end of the road, if you work hard enough, there's a dragon. But
is that White Walker capitalism? If you work hard enough, there's a dragon?
We're bringing
that
back...
should be real capitalism. I would work so much harder.
Right?
We're bringing back your favorite host, though, as Ira Dragonglass.
Oh, no.
Oh my god.
Except now he's all into magic and not science.
But the best part is we have a pledge drive. Would you like to explain, Money, since it's money?
Yes, so every couple of episodes we're going to interrupt for about 40 minutes to talk about how important public radio is. We need to stay on the air because this is a publicly funded institution, and if you donate your firstborn son and send them north of the wall, we will send you back a tote bag made from the cloaks of the Night's Watch.
Oh my god! Oh my god.
That's so good.
It's very in right now.
All right. Now, Team Michonne, tell me about your radio podcasty empire.
Well, we think that underneath all of that gruff exterior, there's a art-loving, movie-loving woman who's actually kind of funny. She just hasn't had the opportunity to really let that shine. So she's going to take over Doug Loves Movies. It's Michonne Loves Movies.
Which is
and
more
she's gonna
alliterative,
play games.
so it's better automatically.
Oh, yeah.
Because alliteration.
Agree.
She wants to play games with people and talk about those days gone by where we could just sit and watch a film and enjoy ourselves instead of constantly having to fight for our lives.
Yeah. In a show like The Walking Dead, the camera's not going to show you oiling your sword, for example, or, going to the bathroom, because, TV shows don't do that. Michonne's personality in terms of her movie buffness, there's no outlet for that on The Walking Dead, so no one actually knows that before the apocalypse, she, spent most of her time debating which Superman was the best Superman movie. Thinking long and hard.
It's Man of Steel, right?
I mean... No.
It's Michonne. It's Man of Steel.
Oh, God. Yeah, okay. So, oh.
Sorry.
Anyway. that's just so thoroughly the wrong answer.
I know.
Yeah, I know.
That movie's terrible.
That's awful. So yeah, she's gonna, you know, you can do all kinds of things in movies once you realize there are never gonna be any more movies. For example, you know all these lists that everybody comes up with, like, oh, the 100 best movies of such and such decade, or, you know, just the 100 best movies of all time. Now you can definitively do that because there's never gonna be any more. So not only is this show gonna feature Michonne's finally able to express her art-loving personality and her humor, but also this will be the most definitive movie podcast ever. Movie podcasts are like huge right now, but this one is going to be the ultimate one because there's no one left to make rebuttal films or to, you know, to do anything more of the genre. So you can do like War Rocket Ajax style every movie ever lists, or you know, imagine what people would be like if they were cast in certain roles and compare actors constantly. It's just like an endless mine of source material.
That's incredible. I hadn't even thought about that. Oh, the last movie podcast ever.
The last movie podcast.
It's like The Last Unicorn, but about films instead of that one unicorn.
That's right.
Oh. Well, on that note, I'm going to go away and think about Judgment and also how much I love The Last Unicorn. Bye!
So this is normally the part of the show where, like, Dan says something clever or, like, asks everybody a question about the source material. But, this is our first ever show without any Mulcarons whatsoever. So, it's kind of freaky, man. I'm not sure what to do about this.
So
the pressure's on you?
Yeah, maybe, but I'm going to fold right under it. That's, it's like I'm not putting up any resistance here. We do have Jamie and Money from the Unspoiled podcast, and I know both of you are have been following Game of Thrones and Walking Dead, and given the fact that both of those shows have been taking some serious bullets from the fan community in the past few years, I'm curious as to which one y'all think has gotten the worse.
I think The Walking Dead is fucking stupid. I watch it and I enjoy it, but it's stupid. They make stupid decisions. I can't stand most of the characters. I hate Rick Grimes more than possibly any character ever, including Joffrey. He's the fucking worst.
He's a mansplaining fascist.
Do you guys, is Norman Reedus' character cool? Because I like Norman Reedus.
Daryl's great. He's also not from the comic books. He's wholly made for the show.
Yeah.
So they don't have to follow any sort of...
Yeah, they can't fuck him up.
Yeah, and he's a fan favorite, so he's basically safe. He's
plot armor.
He's got plot armar.
What's funny is that, my experience researching The Walking Dead, which I've never actually watched, was very different because I was, there was just no time for me to watch all 7 seasons of The Walking Dead, so I had to focus on the Michonne stuff. And I don't know, man, when you watch that show and all you watch is the Michonne stuff, you're like, hey, this is pretty badass.
Yeah, when I was going back and watching just specific stuff for her, I was like, oh yeah, this is really good. And I would get sucked into what was happening, and then I'd remember, oh, but the next episode is fucking garbage.
Oh, man. I gotta say that the whole chaining up her boyfriend and his friend and everything, that's fucking hardcore. I love that. That was fantastic.
Yeah. Did you see where she explains to Carl why she did that?
I did see that, yeah. That was a very good scene.
She's hardcore. It's Michonne and Carol and Ezekiel. They're basically the main characters that keep me around.
Oh my god, Ezekiel, I want to marry him.
Also, I really am if anything happens to the tiger, I'm out. And it's a fake tiger. And I don't care. I don't like when animals get hurt on these shows. When the direwolves die, I am heartbroken.
Spoiler from the comics, Jamie.
What direwolves?
Michonne rides the tiger.
What
direwolves?
I don't know what direwolves you're talking about. There are direwolves in Game of Thrones?
I mean, not anymore, because I don't know where Ghost is. I've been asking that question for 2 years.
Yeah, right? Although, I heard that there was I heard that there was a cutscene in which
John says goodbye to Ghost?
Yeah, and it sort of says, all right, you're going to watch Sansa now. Because, I can't be...
Yeah.
Dude,
but they didn't finish that scene because they feel like they can't make the dog not look fake.
Well, God, and what the fuck's the point of fantasy? Yes, I don't...
Yeah,
guys,
and so they've just thrown away...
They had a fake John butt. They can have a fake dog. I will forgive that.
That wasn't fake.
That was a butt double.
Get your shit together. Come on. I should probably offer a judgment. I know we're all past the point of caring about it, I guess, now that we've gotten into the depths of it.
No, damn it, tell me I win.
Oh, okay. Okay, so...
Give me validation. Or, snatch it away from me.
Yeah, I'm like, there's no... Okay, so I thought about the situation. The fact that I don't think she'd have any problem getting there, and I don't think she'd have any problem actually getting the weapons. I think that it would be a monumental ask for her to survive the trip back once anything is alerted. We see how easy that is in the show, and I believe that she's incredibly tough. I believe that Michonne is incredibly tough and can handle herself. I don't know that those are the numbers. Let's not call them soldiers, but we'll say soldier skills and like accoutrement are, yeah, that's a much less bullshit phrase. Accoutrement. I think it's more likely that the White Walkers will be able to take her than that she would be able to take them at that point. And I think she would, I know, it was exceptionally close. I know, I'm going to get eaten in my sleep now. I'm going to die because Miles is going to come kill me. I only live 4 hours away. Miles, you can come over here. We'll fight.
Bob, I'm not going to kill you.
Oh, really?
All I'm going to do is point out to you that what you've just done is ruled against the black person and in favor of the dudes with white in their names.
I know.
All I'm saying.
No,
Like a real judge, then.
Exactly.
I feel no shame in losing to the team of Money and Liz or to the, badass ice zombie things. So,
they're pretty freaky.
Jamie, you were a quality partner. I'm sorry I let you down.
All of you were fucking exceptional and brought it.
Thank you for having me. I'm sorry that we lost.
Oh, it's okay.
No, you'll come back. You'll come back and you'll win.
Yeah. Thank you
That's
guys.
right.
Hopefully you'll come back. Thank you two so much for being on the show. It was really great. I'm so glad that we got you guys on. I've been trying to get more people from Unspoiled on this show for a while now, and to get both of you on the same episode is just tremendous, and it just really appreciate you being here.
Well, I had a great time.
Thank you for asking.
We have some time for some plugs, though.
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Tell us all about
Please
it.
Plug away.
Because you both have shows to plug.
We do. Jamie, do it.
I have 2 shows. One is called The Constant. It's about Lost, where I have seen all of Lost and my co-host has not seen any of it. And the other one is called Undeclared: The Vampire Diaries. Same scenario. I've seen all of it and she hasn't. They're both really fun. They're very different vibes. The Vampire Diaries is a lot looser, a little more lighthearted, despite the fact that it's about vampires.
And sometimes she has me on to talk about my feelings.
Mm-mm.
Oh, no.
I do. We've had Money on our Lost show. He's not been on The Vampire Diaries, but he's come on The Constant and will be on again in not too long, a few weeks, probably.
So I am Money of Bitches and Money, stars of the show Unscrupled with Bitches and Money, where we cover Buffy the Vampire Slayer and Angel simultaneously. Yes.
Oh, wow.
So if you want to hear the only gay man in his 30s who's never seen these shows and his other gay best friend talk about the white 90s nonsense that is the extended Buffyverse and offer some very pointed critiques of the fashion. Guys, so much
A lot
khaki.
of critiques of the fashion.
So much khaki. So...
Also, Money has never actually appeared on the Unspoiled Game of Thrones show, to my knowledge. But given the format of that show, he's been able to make some pretty fantastic contributions to it.
I came up with the Gendry thing.
Yeah,
You did.
that was brilliant. So, for those not aware, I am a participant on the Unspoiled Game of Thrones show, which now is available only to Unspoiled patrons, so you should go become one of those if you want to listen to this, which you should, because the hook of this show is that I don't actually watch Game of Thrones anymore, and the other hosts try to trick me into believing that random ass shit happened and make me guess. Money was kind enough to provide some very amusing options during season 7, for which we were all very grateful.
There's a reason I did so much, Miles, and it's because you and I think a lot alike, so much so that I'm kind of afraid to be on the podcast with you, because I think the two of us might butt some real heads and make... So.
Yeah, it's kind of terrible. I think we already saw a little bit of that tonight, but we don't want to see any more. That just might tear a hole in the fabric of reality
and make White Walkers come from Westeros to Canada.
That's right, man. I was so confused about where this episode was set.
You know what? I mean, broadly, North America. There you go.
Okay. That works.
Somewhere near the Rockies.
Well, once again, thank you guys so much for coming on.
Thank you so much. It was an absolute joy to have you on the show.
Yeah,
yes, thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you for having us.
Go listen to Unspoiled, go listen to The Constant, go listen to Unscrupled, and listen to The Vampire Diaries.
Buy lots of khaki.
And buy lots of khaki because it
If
is
I
in
see
fact
one more
still the
goddamn
90s.
khaki camel toe, I'm going to scream.
Is it time, Bob?
It is. It is time to do thanks, and it is also time for us to thank the lovely patrons who had their names featured in this episode. So thank you, Christian, for letting me make you a zombie apocalypse survivor who just longs for the days of Captain Planet. And then
I was really hopeful that Kevin Costner had become a patron of the show. I should also mention, just because she's here, Jamie Smith, also a patron of Smash Fiction. She will get her due on this show soon enough. Jamie, if I'm not mistaken, you became a patron because you wanted to listen to the Terminator 2 episode?
That is why, and I still have not listened to it.
Oh,
but
wow.
that's what got me to actually fork over some money.
That is the most backhanded endorsement ever. All right.
We'll take it. Thanks also to Abigail and John for letting me make you into apocalypse survivors who are letter writing, bringing back the good old art of letter writing.
All right, so can I do my song now?
Yes, please. Miles is going to do his own version of the Kit Thanks song, except it will be the Miles Thanks song.
It is now time for the Miles Thanks.
Yeah! Woo! Woo! Yeah, exactly. No, that was what I wanted. That was everything I wanted.
Thank you to everybody who mentioned us and retweeted us on Twitter, including Sandwich Surplus, Matthias Tatimez, Aiden Wells, Mike Booch, Rafael Medina, Cosplay Fiend, Florian, Jake the Fake Jake, Addison of a Gun, and Fearden Scarenolds.
I bet that's the spooky name. That's the spooky version, because I changed mine to Megan Boo. Because
Oh.
So there you go.
That makes sense.
I'm on the tumble. So Pizza Mon, Jeep Rhyme, Changing Shades, and Hornithopter. Hornithopter, pretty sure, formerly Fat Blunt 69, but got a good name in there now.
Still Fat Blunt 69 in our hearts.
And then, these are all winning names. None of these names are anything to be sneezed at. Certainly much finer than my own Tumblr name.
Thank you to Robert Ramsey and Jeffrey Ketchum for sharing our episodes on Facebook. We really appreciate that. Again, thanks to our featured patrons for this episode. If you would like to become a featured patron on a feature episode, please go to www.patreon.com/smashfictionpodcast and become a patron. You can listen to Liz's amazing song that she came out with, which is fucking fantastic. You can listen to the aforementioned episode where Claire and I discussed Terminator 2, which I am just not a fan of. You get to read all of Dan's Extraordinary League notes if you're a patron. You get to vote on future matches, and also you get to vote on what our bonus content of the month is. Yeah, if all of that stuff interests you, which it should because it's amazing, then once again, patreon.com/smashfictionpodcast.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Smash Fiction. Next week, the spookiness continues with a Dracula Spectacular. Dracula versus Dracula versus Dracula versus Dracula.
Smash Fiction is produced by Miles Schneiderman and production assistant Sharon Schneiderman, with logo design by Claire Mulcairn.
Special thanks to Kevin MacLeod of the Clan MacLeod at Incompetech.com for our theme song, Hitman.
You can find us on Twitter at SmashFic Podcast and search for the Smash Fiction Podcast on Facebook, Tumblr, and YouTube.
Subscribe on Apple Podcasts or your podcatcher of choice, and if you leave us a good review, we shall become more powerful than you can possibly imagine.
Smash Fiction is made possible thanks to our supporters on Patreon at patreon.com/smashfictionpodcast. Please consider donating as little as $1 each month. It helps us keep the show going, and we have great rewards and extra content for those who help us out.
If you have any suggestions, feedback, or other contributions, send them to us at smashfictionpodcast@gmail.com and help us continue the fight.
Representing Team White Walkers are Miles Schneiderman,
Nope.
What?
What?
Not the
Fuck,
case.
what?
Money!
Okay, wait. So then Team White Walkers is
Money and Liz.
Money and Liz. Oh, I'm just gonna change that part then. That would be way easier than moving your names around. I just fully assumed it had to be Miles because it was Game of Thrones, and then I just had been living with that assumption this entire time. Oh well.
I'm sorry, have you met Miles?
I want to suck your blood!
Yay!
Now, if you can do that in your Arnold voice, then I'd be super impressed.
I want to suck your blood!
Oh my god!